Things are starting to look up for our football empire. Sunderland look like they're finally on the verge of getting into Europe and not being rubbish. They're supposed to be our flagship club. And a lot of the other clubs are starting to pull their weight as well. We've even won our first Champions League down in Africa and are in with a shot of a couple more. We're still in the European Champions League with Dinamo Zagreb. They probably won't win it. But Hamburg and Standard Liege are first and second in the Europa League stage. And Urawa Red Diamonds are still in the Asian Champions League as well. So bring me some trophies. And in order to get trophies, we need to do transfers. And the biggest pile of cash we've got is at Sunderland, £53 million to spend. The January transfer window has just opened. And as you can see, we are in with a shot of Champions League qualification if we play our cards right. Either way, we should be looking at strengthening to secure this top 6 place. We're 10 points clear of Liverpool with a game in hand. Just don't balls up, lads. Let's do our January transfers. But first, the Argentinian transfer window is closed, and I acknowledge, after being rubbish last season with Independiente, that's not a good look. But we did our business early. I was being a rascal. I tricked you. Look at all this money we spent back in December. We've got Juan Fagundes, who's a 19-year-old Uruguayan left winger, 3.5-star current ability, 5-star potential. He's in from Nacional in Uruguay. We also have Misumar Gomez Duarte, who's a 19-year-old Brazilian defensive midfielder. Lots of potential. Might not be ready to start yet, but lots of potential with him. Brandon Marquez is another Uruguayan, 18 years old, 3 stars of current ability, 5 stars of potential. We're just collecting all the best young talent in South America. That's our new plan. Brian Gomez is a 20-year-old Argentinian winger, 3 stars of current ability, 5 stars of potential. He played a full season for Newell's Old Boys last season. And then we've got Pedro Rangel. We needed a goalkeeper. There's a goalkeeper. Yes, he's 30, but he's a goalkeeper. And I don't know if I mentioned, we needed a goalkeeper. And then we finished things off with Glaudestoni Navarini, who's another goalkeeper. Did I mention we need a goalkeeper? This one's got 5 stars of potential. Aside from all that, we just binned off a bunch of the trash that we didn't need anymore. I don't think we need to get too bogged down into the players who left the club. The only one that might come back to bite us, Juan Manuel Fedorco, who has been a regular starter for us at the back for quite a long time, but wanted to go to Mexico. Tigres came in. I mean, it's not that he wanted to go to Mexico. He did that, I want to go and play in a bigger league thing. And a 30-year-old Argentinian who's never played internationally wasn't going to come to Europe. So we didn't have much choice but to sell him. And because Argentina, the transfer window closed before we had the opportunity to bring in replacements, as you can see, as usual, we did have, to be fair, not a huge number of transfers that have fallen through. But yeah, I don't feel like we're completely finished, but I do feel like we're a lot better than we were last season. Last season, we flirted with relegation briefly. This season, the media think we are outside chance of a Copa Sudamericana spot, which would be super duper and a step back in the right direction again for this once great club that will be great again. That's the plan for Independiente. Now I can show you what I got up to in Europe. With Sunderland, the answer is not a huge amount. It was mostly moving players amongst our own clubs. The only big signing we made was Nadson, who's a 22-year-old Brazilian winger, 3 stars of current ability, 4.5 stars of potential, £16 million. Just seemed like a decent value for money signing. But the big money went on Junior Krupi, who forced through a move out of Standard Liège at a time where we really couldn't afford to let him leave Standard Liège. So we've signed him for Sunderland and loaned him back to Standard Liège until the end of the season. I know I didn't have to give them a big pile of cash, but I needed them to have money to actually sign a long-term replacement for him as well. So I threw basically what was left in the budget at them. We also moved a few of our other players out on loans, particularly our backup goalkeepers. So Marcos, who's a young Brazilian goalkeeper that we signed back in the summer. He's gone on loan to Hamburg with a view to becoming the starting goalkeeper there for the rest of the season. And Cermak, the young Czech goalkeeper, has gone on loan to Urawa Red Diamonds with a view to him becoming their starting goalkeeper. So yeah, not a huge amount of business. at Sunderland. But importantly, the money is still looking good and the league table is still looking very good. We're up to 5th now. Yes, we're 7 points outside of the four-way title race. That's mad, that four-way title race. But us and Brighton are well clear of 7th place, and we are looking good for a European qualification spot. Sky Vink is starting to turn into a footballer as well. Chelsea are interested in him. He's having the best season of his career at 24 years old and is starting to develop into a real top striker, which is very nice to see. Also, good to see Gwenda, who we spent all that money on, playing really well for Hamburg. I'm sure we'll get to them in a little while. And in fact, Morosi playing really well for Standard Liège. So the future is very bright. We've got a lot of our young players doing really well out on their loans as well. Big thumbs ups for everything that's going on at Sunderland, apart from Andrew Lowe, who's just not developing because he's not playing, so he's not going to develop. He's still an English wonder kid. And Marin Toplak is still a wonder kid as well, but isn't really playing and doesn't want to go back to Dinamo Zagreb. And there are clubs circling for him. And we might end up moving. I guess we could move him to Hamburg in the summer. For now, he hasn't gone anywhere. And I've probably dropped the ball a little bit there by not sending him out on loan. Hamburg is more of a longer term job and probably does need a little bit more detailed surgery. But in the meantime, we've got Marcos in to be the new goalkeeper. We signed another one of our South African boys, Zimandi, from the Sundowns, who, I mean, he wasn't even playing for them regularly, but it was already being courted by European clubs, so he's come in and gone straight back on loan. Magrao has come on loan from Red Diamonds as well. He's their backup goalkeeper. We had a bit of a goalkeeping crisis at Hamburg. That's why Marcos and Magrao have both come in. And Magrao coming here is why the other Sunderland guy has gone to Japan. It's been a goalkeeper merry-go-round within the Empire this summer. And then we've also signed Vuksavic from Dinamo Zagreb because same situation we see all the time. The big clubs were circling. So he's come into Hamburg. He's gone straight back on loan to them. It's just really to keep him out of the hands of the big clubs. That's why that transfer has happened. We've moved a couple of other players out on loans or even permanent moves within the Empire. So Thomas Sanden, who was originally at Dinamo Zagreb, came into Hamburg, but Standard Liège needed a left back. So he's gone to Standard Liège to be the new left back. We actually had a little bit of a financial crisis here at Hamburg. We had all of our budgets massively slashed, so needed to sell some. That's why he's gone for £15 million. We obviously had the croupy money at Standard Liège and needed to get some of it into Hamburg to get our budgets back where they're supposed to be. And this was why we had a goalkeeping crisis because he went to Freiburg, which is why we had to bring the two in on loan. So, I mean, we're not looking great. We're down in 9th place. Where's the squad? Why is the squad down there? There we go. The one bright point, as ever, is this guy. And I don't know how much longer he stays here for. Liverpool want him. There's going to come a time where we have to take him to Sunderland or accept he's leaving the Empire. It might be this summer if Hamburg don't get into Europe. Standard Liège, we've obviously had quite a lot of shenanigans over the course of January. We know all about Krupi leaving for £39 million, but we also lost our goalkeeper, Epolo, went to Brighton for £8 million. We already had Martinelli, the Sunderland backup goalkeeper, was already here on loan. But yeah, there's potentially going to be more goalkeeper merry-go-round going on when we get into the summer, because one of those guys who's out on loan at Hamburg or Urawa is probably going to have to come here, because once Martinelli goes, unless Martinelli comes back, but we are going to be sans goalkeeper. And we brought in a couple of Hamburg fringes. Mark Bernal has come in on loan as well. He's not really worked out as a £20 million transfer from Barcelona. It's his second loan at Standard Liège. It's the only place he's ever really got consistent football. So he's come back here because he wanted to leave Sunderland. And to be honest, we probably could have sold him. The only permanent signing we've made is Jawad Latig, who's a 20-year-old defensive midfielder, centre-back. We haven't got the permanent junior Krupi replacement yet, unless it ends up being Lunga Molekwa, who, to be fair, has come straight in with enormous current and potential ability. He'd scored 10 in 10 at Mamelodi Sundowns this season. So if he ends up as good as the guy who we took into Zagreb, we might end up making lots of South African strikers, which would be nice. We still have the bulk of the Krupi money to spend in the summer, so we're not in a huge rush. We might not be in Europe with any flavour by the time summer comes round as well, and with losing Krupi and Favre not getting any younger, things aren't looking great for Standard Liège currently. Things are looking great at the Mamelodi Sundowns, so their transfer window is also just closed. Currently well clear at the top of the league and cruising in the Champions League again as they look to retain that trophy, which hopefully we will be able to do. Transfers have been a very similar pattern. We're used to the pattern by now. Anyone who wants to leave tends to leave to one of the other Empire clubs. This time it was Molekwa, who we've just looked at, who went to Liège, and Zimandi, who went to Hamburg, but then came back here on loan. Other than that, it was just trying to bring in a couple more of the Media Dream 11 players. You can see that's all we ever do. So just bringing in players sat there in the Media Dream 11. Anytime someone who's not one of ours breaks into the Dream 11, we try and sign them. And they're so cheap because players in South Africa are so cheap that we just continue to make. I mean, we still want this guy. We'll get him eventually. But we'll always maintain. We'll win the league here every year because we're always going to have the best players. But for as long as we're selling our players to Europe for millions, we can buy up the best players here for 300,000 anytime they become available and still have loads of money left over. So I think we've got a good thing going here at the Sundowns. And equally at Dinamo Zagreb, things going very, very well. 19 points clear at the top of the league. We're only halfway through the season. The Champions League, we did finish just outside of the qualification spots for the knockout round. So very respectable 29th. Finished on same number of points as Borussia Dortmund, ahead of Bayer Leverkusen. That's not too shabby. And of course, we would have made a big pile of cash from doing it and hopefully should be able to get ourselves into the Champions League again next year. We're obviously going to win the league. It's just whether or not we get through qualifying. We didn't need to do a huge amount in the way of transfers. There's a couple of guys who are coming on loan from Hamburg. That was more a case of they wanted to leave Hamburg and no one would buy them than anything else. This is the guy that we sold to them and he's come back on loan. He just wanted out. So just to take away an unhappiness problem at Hamburg, we brought him in here. But yeah, otherwise things looking pretty solid, ticking over very nicely. And of course, we do need to continue to keep an eye on Bonolo Masuku, who 12 goals from 10 starts now in the league. He's not even our regular starting striker because we've got this guy who's been scoring for fun for the last few years. It might be time to sell him on and go all in on Masuku as our main striker. Although the danger of that is, how long is he going to be here for before we have to move him to Hamburg or Sunderland if he keeps scoring like that? Keep a close eye on Bonolo Masuku, boys and girls. And then, as promised in the last episode, we've stuck with Urawa Red Diamonds all the way through to April when their transfer window closes. As you can see, it is a rejuvenated Urawa as well, who are currently top of the J League, 7 games in. As a result of this transfer window, we didn't even do anything too bananas. You already know about Magral going to Hamburg and Cermak coming in from Sunderland to be the goalkeeper. But otherwise, it's just been a case of bringing in the odd player here and there, but not really having to do a huge amount. We're focusing on signing good young Japanese players with loads of potential and then filling in squad gaps with fancy loans from Europe where we can. And as you can see, we've managed to get quite a few nice fancy loans as well. And all in all, without losing any of our key players, we've put together a very, very good squad for the J League. The media think we're looking good for finishing second in it. Ramaj is apparently the best goalkeeper in the league, and he's not even starting at the moment because we've got Cermak on loan from Sunderland. So the best goalkeeper in the league isn't even playing because we've got an even better one. Have we got any more of the boys in that Dream 11 or any of the other? Marin is ours. Yamamoto is ours. And Sakamoto, who we signed last season. It wasn't clear whether he was going to be the answer at the time, and still now. He'd only played one time for Japan, but clearly scoring goals for fun at Urawa Red Diamonds and becoming something of a hero. And frankly, he knows it as well, doesn't he? He knows he's the guy around these parts. So looking very good here. Unfortunately, not in the Champions League. We were knocked out in the group stage and we didn't qualify for next season's Champions League last season. So we do have that lag in Japan where even if we were to win J-League this year, we're not going to be back in the Champions League until the season after, which isn't ideal. But at least all of this is moving in the right direction. And now I barely get a break before the European season's end. I've got like a month before we have to come back in Europe. I don't get a lot of holiday playing the game this way. This is not acceptable. But we have made it through to the end of the season, and these are your headlines. So Dinamo Zagreb have won the league, as you would expect. Won the league relatively easily. We're on the verge of winning a domestic double as well. We've not actually completely finished the season, but the league has been won comfortably. Friggin scoring loads of goals and is now wanted by, I mean, that's ideal. He's 28. He's wanted by Saudi Arabian clubs. Masuku continuing to score when he gets the opportunity. 14 goals from 11 starts. He needs to be our main striker. We need to sell Friggin this summer, and Masuku needs to be the main starting striker, because he's just scoring goals for fun. We've also got this guy, Bellinho, that we need to keep an eye on. He's wanted by Schalke. So if they come in with a bid and kind of force us into selling him, he might end up at Hamburg, because we'll want to keep him within the Empire because he's looking really good. He was on loan at Millwall last year. This is his first full season playing for us. He's already playing for Croatia internationally as well and looks like he is the business. So very much enjoying having him knocking around. And Arthur Vermeeren looks like he's finally found a home where he looks the way Arthur Vermeeren was always supposed to look. Now Burnley want him. Of course Burnley want him. Goodness me. Even better news, though, is that Sunderland are in Europe. We've made it into the Europa League. Not quite good enough to get in the Champions League, but the Europa League is a big step forward. Look at the size of that transfer budget that we've got to spend with Sunderland. This is going to be a make or break summer in the next episode. Sky Vink is wanted by Chelsea and Paris Saint-Germain, so we're going to have a decision to make with him this summer. Is that the guy who is going to lead us through the Europa League into the Champions League and beyond? Or do we cash in while his stock is high, big clubs want him, and bring in Wiper from Hamburg, who's probably going to have to leave Hamburg this summer, and build the attack around him? Or Krupi, I guess. Krupi's probably not going to be the guy, is he? Although he's continuing to play very, very well at Standard Liège. So maybe get the merry-go-round going again. We sell Vink for 100 million plus. Wiper comes in here. Krupi goes to Hamburg and takes over from him there. Maybe that works. Maybe this is how multi-club management was supposed to be all along. But yeah, we've got a lot of players who've played very well out on their loans. Quenda, he's going to be an interesting decision to make this summer. He's been fantastic at Hamburg, didn't get a look in with us. Do we move him to Hamburg permanently or do we keep him here? Similar decisions going to need to be made around Jose da Costa, who's now got 4 caps for England, has been really, really good at Standard Liège. Do we send him back there? Do we maybe send him to Hamburg? Do we give him the opportunity to try and get into our team, but knowing that realistically, he's not going to be starting in our team because we've got Vuskovic, we've got Yelch, we've got Jared Branthwaite still knocking around as well. There are complicated decisions to make. And we're going to have similar decisions around the goalkeepers because we've got Restes, but Restes is only 2.5 stars of current ability now. Meanwhile, we've got Martinelli, who's been a starting keeper for Standard Liège and done quite well. We've got Cermek, who's starting keeper at Urawa Red Diamonds and is doing quite well. We've got Marcos, who's the starting keeper at Hamburg and isn't even showing on here. Will one of them come in and be the goalkeeper? Or do we go and sign a new one? What do we do about Andrew Lowe, who is no longer classed as a wonder kid, and it's PSV Eindhoven who are after him? After a year being a reserve for Sunderland, do you reckon we can convince him to go back to Standard Liège? If not, does he go somewhere like Hamburg? because he's not really going to get a look in here. So lots of decisions to make and lots of money to spend at Sunderland, which of course will all be in the next episode now. And something does have to change at Hamburg because we've finished in 8th. Once again, that means not qualifying for Europe. And this is what I mean about having to make a decision around this guy. 26 years old. He's also wanted by some big clubs and Spurs. And I mean, he's scored 40 goals in 42 appearances in all competitions this season after 27 goals the season before. If he's ever coming to Sunderland, it feels like now is the time off the back of a 40-goal season. Do we bring him to Sunderland? Or do we accept that if we don't, we're going to struggle to keep him at Hamburg with Real Madrid and Manchester United interested in him? I mean, will we even get him to Sunderland with Real Madrid and Manchester United interested in him, which I guess is the other thing, because we could end up with a disaster scenario where he goes to Real Madrid, Vink goes to Paris Saint-Germain, and we're starting your fella from Dinamo Zagreb up front for Sunderland, and it all starts to fall apart. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen. We are very much a one-man team. I mean, to be fair, those two as a combo, that combo could be playing for Sunderland next year. That combo finished 8th in Bundesliga. Maybe they're not the guys to be building my, hopefully, Champions League qualifying Sunderland team around. Standard Liège continue to fall from grace. Conference League next season for Standard Liège, and it's Conference League without Junior Krupi and without the best player in the league because he's old and he's probably going to leave. Not only are they going to be without Fabra and Krupi, Morosi is on loan from Sunderland, where he's probably going to go back. He might not want to come back here. Da Costa is likely to be back at Sunderland or maybe at Hamburg. A lot of the best players of this already not very good team are not going to be here anymore. There's tough times ahead for Standard Liège, but there is a ton of cash to spend. We need to do the kind of rebuild here that we did in Japan last year. We need to do that with Standard Liège. And we need to properly treat them like a standalone club rather than a team that's absolutely chock full of loans like this one is, which I think is part of the problem. And then Mamelodi Sundowns have won the league again. Easy league win. The Champions League final hasn't yet been played. We are losing from the first leg against Al Ahly of Egypt. But we are in the Club World Cup. This is our first representation in the Club World Cup. Remember as well, milestones, if we win the Club World Cup, which we probably won't with Mamelodi Sundowns, but if we do get to unlock another mega club. So that would be certainly an interesting cat amongst the pigeons if Mamelodi Sundowns could do something spectacular there. But I mean, realistically, it's going to be another season of rebuilding. Most of the players who are here won't be here next season. So we just need to continue rebuilding out of that Media Dream 11 and accepting that a lot of these players who are wanted by European clubs are probably going to be joining the other teams in the network and just keep it all flowing through. It's not all sunshine and roses, though. That's a problem Future Kev's going to have to deal with. Independiente, rock bottom of the Argentinian league. And that transfer window hasn't even opened again yet. That might become an unfixable problem if we're not careful. But at least things are going well in Japan. Now, you can't have everything. We're looking good in Africa. We're looking good in Asia. Europe is on the up. South America's a disaster. We've not unlocked North America yet. So we might get ourselves into the situation if Independiente get relegated and we're done with them, we might end up with no South American team, having ruined one of the great ones of history, in which case we'd have to go back to the drawing board and unlock another one, which there are ways to unlock clubs anywhere I want. And I am already starting to think in terms of, if it carries on going the way it is at Independiente, we might have to write that off as a bad job and take on a Brazilian club as an expansion club in the future and try and pretend Independiente never happened. Obviously, next episode, I will try and fix them. But it's without going into too much depth now. And I'm still on holiday. I don't know what's gone on. I'm on holiday until the window opens. I thought I did quite a good window. Apparently not. We'll see what kind of mess has happened there in the next episode. But for now, I think we are finally moving in the right direction again. Season 6 has been our best season yet. Next year, we're going to win a trophy. And not just like Mamelodi Sundowns winning a trophy. We're going to win a European trophy of some kind. In fact, on that note, Europa League. Hamburg and Standard Liege were both doing really well in it. Hamburg made it to the final of the Europa League. Standard Liège made it to the semi-final of the Europa League. Maybe it's not all bad at those clubs. Maybe they were a little bit too focused on the Europa League this year. Neither of them are in it next year. Hamburg not in Europe at all. Standard Liège in the Conference League, which based on this, they should be able to win. Maybe I've been a little bit harsh on them. I tell you what, this does tell me, if Sunderland don't win the Europa League next year, questions need to be asked. That's for sure. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for loads more of this nonsense. It's getting good. Thank you very much for watching.